Hello and welcome to Earth Talks. It's International Women's Day. My guests today are pushing boundaries every day of their lives. And I'd like to start by introducing them. I'm delighted to welcome this panel of guests. There's Ashwika Kapoor, who's a science communicator. She's a filmmaker. There's Sugandhi Gadadhar. She's a wildlife filmmaker. She also says she's a voiceover artist. I'd love to hear more about that. We'll be joined shortly by Tiasa Adhya. She's a scientist working on the highly elusive fishing cat. And we have Ashwini Mohan. Her Twitter handle says she's a crazy chipkali. And as that kind of denotes, she's a herpetologist and she's a PhD candidate and she's currently based in Germany. So thank you all so much for taking the time out to join me on this show. I know this is going to be a delightful conversation. And I just have to start by saying that, you are women who are pushing boundaries, not just on in your career paths, but also I would say within your chosen disciplines. And I think Ashwini, you're a prime example of that. You could have chosen to study charismatic megafauna. So how did people react when you told them you're going to go out and study reptiles? How was that taken?
Yeah, Bahar, the most common comment I always got is like, "Ladki, ladki, मतलब आके इधर छिपकली क्यों पकड़ रही है?" It was like the most common question in the Andamans, and I mean, yeah, I kind of get why people ask that. Um, and my family, most of all, they were like, why like reptiles of all the things? But the first time I ever went to a rainforest, it was really late in my life because I grew up in Bangalore, and even though we have some really good forests very close by, I was a pure city kid with zero exposure to forests. So when I was exposed to this, like right after my bachelor's, it came of a great surprise that I was really sure that I don't want to do anything else. And even within forests, the animals that actually really attracted my attention was lizards. And so it was from day one. And I don't really know how to explain this, but I guess it's also because they were understudied. They were not so well known, and it was difficult to find information about those things even on Google. You really had to, find specific keywords. It's not like a tiger or a leopard where you put something and you get like 100 different stories about it, right? So you really have to dig in, and so that made me more curious. Yeah.
And would you say that there are more men studying reptiles than women? And how do you then, counter that stereotype?
Oh yeah, definitely. So like all fields in science, engineering, technology, and mathematics, herpetology has definitely been a male-dominated field, and unfortunately, even today, it remains so. So there's definitely a lot more men working on reptiles, specifically, even more than amphibians. Um, and the stereotype is true. But the thing is, it gives us women there is a large scope of working on very different questions within reptiles or amphibians. It doesn't have to be catching these animals all the time if you're not comfortable doing it. It's not just for women, it's also, holds good for men. It can be various different kind of questions like evolution, population genetics, kind of things that I do. It requires catching, but it also requires, completely different set of skill sets that not everybody might have. So I mean, if you learn the correct things, I think we have a huge scope of, expanding in this field.
Okay. So, Gandhi, I have to come to you because I have to share my own experience of being, a news journalist. And I remember that there was a time when there would be one or two probably women camera persons, if I can use that term. And you're somebody who handles the camera, who's a storyteller. You've made some fantastic films. How difficult was it for you to break the gender barrier? I know you do work with your husband, but was it very difficult to go out as a woman with a camera? And what were the kind of stereotypes that you had to encounter?
I always wanted to do this, but I began my career as a software engineer, as typically everybody in Bangalore does that, right? Everybody gets into software and gets out of the country. That's what everybody in Bangalore does. But this is what I always wanted to do. And my journey began with watching birds and insects and learning about wildlife, and then getting behind the camera. But the challenges that we face, women face, are pretty much similar to what men face, because we have to be able to carry that kind of, the equipment. The camera and lens itself, a combination would weigh around 10 kgs, and the tripod and head would weigh around 15 kgs. So we must be physically fit to be able to lug it around anywhere. And that's, I think, something that is on equal footing with what male camera persons would do. But the additional challenges, I think I can speak not just for myself, but for my other friends here, is the monthly periods that we all have to go through. And I don't know if I can add that here, but that is something that I speak about everywhere, because we have to deal with it in a sustainable way everywhere. And for me, I have switched to using the menstrual cup, and I know some of my female colleagues who have switched to using cloth pads. And this, I think, has been the best thing that I have done, because it's, I'm nice to myself, I'm nice to the forest where I work in. And if I go to any rural area, I don't add to the litter. So,
and I like the part, Sugandhi, yeah, that is so true. And I like the part where you say that actually we face the same difficulties as men, because, even I get asked, oh, as a woman, as a female reporter, sometimes we don't even think of it that way, right? We go out and we report and we do the, the task that we have to. Yeah. And it's only later that the gender lens sort of comes on. Yeah. But let me bring in Tiyasa. She is, Tiyasa, firstly, thank you so much for joining us, because I know you had a bit of a struggle. You were out there doing a census on the fishing cat, which we all
Yes,
love.
I'm just back. I'm still in the field clothes.
Okay, more power to you. But yeah, I mean, thank you for joining us. I know you've just got off a bus and you've, been out there. And so, Tiyasa, how has it been for you, working in communities, being out there? Do you think you have to face that stereotype on a day-to-day basis? So I'm not just perhaps from your own family, but also out there. How has it been for you, the journey?
I think in the total, we are still living in a world which is patriarchal, and especially rural communities are very much patriarchal. So I got treated mostly as either a daughter, which means that you are taken care of, but also there are some lines that you cannot cross, and if you cross them, then be at your own risk. And the other thing is, there are some places in which I felt that I could not be friends with men, because you can have a friendly relation, but you cannot be a friend. That's what I felt, because if you do, then there are some instances which might be very unpleasant. And that is my experience. And apart from the Northeast, I think I've always faced male gaze. And that is true for any sphere. That is true for conservation as well.
Yeah, yes. I think the only thing is that I think as we are perhaps more vulnerable as conservationists, because many of us are out there with no communication or contact. So I think that perhaps makes it all the more challenging. But I'd like to get perhaps what I think is our youngest guest today, Ashvika Kapoor. Welcome, Ashvika. You're somebody who's behind the camera, in front of the camera. You're breaking those stereotypes, as you said in the chat before, both sides of the camera. So how did that happen?
Well, I mean, the front of camera has only just started recently. So it's something that was a very natural transition, largely because I think I'm quite comfortable in front of the camera and I've always wanted to sort of present. But so that was a natural transition. But I started out as a storyteller. So I do both. I do behind the camera stuff. And now just recently I've started presenting. So it's just where life's kind of taking me.
Right. Okay. So I think we have kind of touched upon the fact, we've accepted the fact that there are challenges. Some of the challenges are what our male counterparts would face as well. Sugandhi, you briefly touched upon, what if there is the issue of the monthly cycle and how do you deal with that in the field? That is something which is exclusive to all of us. But what I'd like to hear from each one of you now in this part of the show is what specific gender challenges did you encounter and how
Yeah.
did you overcome them? So I'd like to start with you, Tiasa, because you and I had a very interesting conversation where you said you have to wear a scarf and you have to make yourself look very gender neutral so as not to attract attention to yourself. And I found that interesting because you said perhaps that's not, we have to make these compromises. And I actually thought what you were trying to say to me was that in spite of everything, you were going out there and doing your work. It's not like you decided I'm going to sit at home because, the people out there are very gender biased. So made your peace, wore that scarf, did what you had to, and went out there. So besides the headscarf, what are the other challenges that you face?
The headscarf I'm wearing right now because my hair is just, hair wear.
That's okay.
Like wearing an orna like this
Yes,
and
yeah.
covering your front part, because as a woman, you tend to attract that male gaze. And I always felt uncomfortable dealing with it. And sometimes I just felt that I couldn't walk straight in a straight posture, to be very honest.
Yeah.
So that's why I, took the scarf and hid my front part so that I don't attract the male gaze. That's it. That's what I was saying. And that, as a woman, I was compromising. But as a conservationist, that is what, my work is what mattered to me. And I felt, okay, if I did this, then at least I would go ahead and, be able to talk to people and sit down and chat at least without, creating a situation where I might fall into an unpleasant situation and create a complexity which I cannot go beyond with.
Right.
That is a complexity that comes with, working in at least where I work in rural communities. I have faced this challenge. And simple things like, be careful while talking with men, do not be too friendly because they might take the wrong signals in the rural communities. I have kind of missed the city space in rural communities being a woman. But yes, at the end of the day, conservation is what matters. And that was my goal. So this was a way in which I circumnavigated the problem. And I think each one of us will find our ways of doing that if our goals are fixed and our focus is there.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's just that sometimes I feel I've compromised myself as a woman because, why can't I take that stand? But, given the situation where we are still in a patriarchal society, maybe there are some ways in which there are some ways in which we have navigate the problem out of it.
Yeah. And Tiasa, I remember when we were discussing this, I was trying to say to you that it's funny how we bring the lens back to us internally, but we never sort of externalize this and think that actually it's the men perhaps who should not be roaming around, for instance, after 8 p.m. Like a lot of women are told, don't roam around in the dark after 8 p.m. because it's a problem. The women are made to be the problem because they're going out. But how about locking up the men after 8 p.m. so that they don't create the problems? And we can roam around freely. So it's the blame somehow always comes on the woman. That it's your problem. You're the one who knows the dangers, and you're going out into these communities.
Yes, and in the rural communities, the patriarchy is so internalized that I can see women who are caught in this little sphere, and even they think that other women, if they are targeted, then that's their problem. There must be a problem in the girl. And only rural communities. I remember this situation where I was working in the Sundarbans, and of course it's a muddy terrain. You have to wear really short clothes. And because Ashwika knows, you get sucked into the mud and you can't come out. You can't go around wearing a whatever. Yeah. So there was my female colleague who was pretty senior, city-based person, and she said that there were some unpleasant situations with the men in the field, and she said that's happening because you're going around wearing short clothes. I mean, what is this? This kind of a situation, women are always targeted.
Yes.
That is where I feel that yes, it's the men. I mean, they are the problem. Not all men.
Right.
Yeah. But in totality, if so much, if women have to be conscious that each and every step, be on their guard at each and every step. Why? I mean, men are not doing that at all. So where does the problem lie? And who should solve the problem? Who should target?
Yeah. But to your credit, Tiasa, I know your work. I've seen your work. I think you've countered all those challenges. You're out there. You're doing the census right now. So I think that's what's most important. So Gandhi, have you ever had to deal with these challenges out there when you were filming in Daroji? You've also shot a series for Animal Planet. So did you have to come across a lot of stereotypes as well?
It's like Tiasa was explaining, we are expected to be adhering to some norms. So even now, where I'm working in a village, until we, like Rana and I explain that we are husband and wife, they are curious to know why a guy and a woman are living together. And all these personal questions are always asked to the woman. Are you married? Do you have children? What are you doing? All these questions are always targeted to women. And even if we go on any other shoot, it's me they expect to go to a religious place, for example. And even if he says no, it's okay. But I'm expected to adhere to, respect the culture, and all these things happen. And I was telling you earlier that we need to lift these heavy equipment, and the men in the village, typically the villages, they have to help, because one of the guys explained to me that if he doesn't help, and I am seen carrying heavy equipment, the other men will make fun of him later. They're saying, what is this? Tum mard nahi ho kya? You have to, you can't let her carry. But their own women in their households are carrying water or like everything. That's okay. But me, I'm an outsider, and they let me carry these things is not accepted. So,
right. So I would say there's also some the outsider prejudice, a bit of that also coming in. Is not always gender. There's a class bias there as well. But I, in fact, hearing all your stories, I'd like to share my experience as well. Not many people know that before I turned to journalism, I actually used to work with communities. I used to work with a community of snake charmers, and I went out there saying, "Oh, I'm going to, reform this community." And as I started sitting with them and understanding what is it that they do, and understanding that really it was a livelihoods issue, that you passed this wildlife law, but you hadn't given them alternate livelihoods. Now, in order for me to be able to sit with them and devise a livelihood strategy, it meant sitting with the men. And in the panchayat, women were not allowed to sit. But I have to say that, I worked on that project for, I would say, 10 years of my life. And it was only, I would say, by the 7th or the 8th year that I was allowed to sit in those panchayat meetings, where they then started opening up and saying, yes, these are the problems we are facing, and here's where we would like help. Here's what we would like to do. And then it became like a more co-participatory method. So I think there is light at the end of the tunnel. Yes, we do come across many difficulties. Ashvika, have you faced any of this?
Absolutely. I echo everything everyone's been saying. The marriage thing, though, is like especially one trip in UP, I remember, where I was asked this question so many times that finally I got fed up and started showing Leonardo DiCaprio's picture and says, yeah, I'm married. He just lives abroad. So I'm like, just stop it asking me now. So I got fed up. And actually, to be honest, more than communities, I mean, remote communities, I've kind of felt this thing about, so when you think wildlife filmmaker and sort of, wildlife presenter and things like that, you normally think big, tall male, big camouflage hat. You do not think girl in her 20s running around tiny things, sort of desperately trying to sort of manage everything at the same time, wearing all the hats. Right. But so the stereotypical image is very different when people think wildlife filmmaker. So initially, I used to really think that I had to take a lot more effort to convince people that I could do what I was doing, more than a man would have to. And I remember a very early experience where a personnel from the forest department had seen some of my work, and nice person, but he saw my work and he said, "Acha, ye aapne banaya hai?" हाँ, अच्छा, आप कैमरा चला लेती हैं? हाँ, चला लेती हूँ. Next question. आप कैमरा उठा लेती हैं? I'm just like, yes, I can't deal. So, I mean, I face this not only, I mean, of course, remote areas, there are stereotypical, but I kind of feel like that's easier to break sometimes. Because as a woman, you're somehow to take an advantage of that, you are more welcome as a, you're not a threat. You are much, people welcome you into their houses. They warm up to you. If you're nice to the kids and you're nice to the women, suddenly you see the men are like, okay, this is not such an odd situation.
Yeah. So
she's
you're
a bit weird, but it's okay. I mean, so it warms up. But I find authority and very patriarchal authority in positions of power highly annoying, because at the end of the day, they are the ones who are giving you the permissions. They are the ones who are signing off on access and things, and to have to take those extra steps just because they don't have the faith in you. That's just highly unfortunate.
So what you're saying to me, Ashvika, is there have been moments when you've kind of not been taken seriously.
Absolutely.
And then there are moments when there are some advantages to being a woman.
Many.
And again, I find that if I'm in a village, then it also gives me easy access to the women, because I can, talk to them and get their stories. Ashwini, did you ever have to encounter men saying, okay, we're not going to take you seriously, or as a herpetologist, you're not going to be taken, as a female herpetologist, you're not going to be taken seriously? Has that happened to you?
Yeah, and mostly again in the field, but from all kinds of stakeholders. Like Ashvika pointed out, it can come from forest department officials, it can be the people. And actually she pointed out at a very important point that I was going to also talk about, like how people warm up to you because they don't see you as a threat. But at the same time, it kind of shows that they don't look at you as an equal. You're not a threat because you're not equal. Like if you would be a problem only if they think that you're an equal, but when they realize that she's like a short, like normal female, what is she going to do? Like, what can she possibly do? She's just going to get her work done and she's going to get out of this place. So that, even though they warm up and you can get your work done, which is a good thing in the end of the day, you don't have to probably suffer as much, but it still kind of irritates me a lot because in the end, you feel like you're not taken seriously. Permission de denge, kar lo, tum jo bhi karo. That sort of an attitude comes into the place, and that is kind of uncomfortable. But on the other hand, working in the Andamans for a few years, I've also met a lot of people who changed their ideas, and I could see the process happening, right? Yes. I went as a very young student doing my master's, and I worked there for the next couple of years on and off. And by the end of all that, field days, people like the same people who were a bit skeptical about, either giving permits or working with me, or they never took me seriously. In the end, they did take me seriously because they saw me working. So they came to the field, they had a look about how these things, like how does sampling happen? Like, how do you catch a snake? How do you catch a gecko? And they changed their minds. And that kind of really made me very happy because you can change minds. It's just that, unfortunately, not all of us are going to stick around the same place for long enough to actually to be able to do that. And because we can't afford to do that all the time. It happens when it happens, but definitely these are some of the common challenges. Yeah.
So my final round of questions to all of you, and I think this is more in the form of words of inspiration you would leave behind to a young girl who wants to do more science, who wants to be a filmmaker, who wants to be out, studying fishing cats and other elusive species. What would you say to them? So Gandhi, I want to start with you. 2 recommendations or words of inspiration you would share with young women out there this International Women's Day.
I would say keep yourself fit and study what you want to study, and then follow your dreams. You just can make it happen. Everything is in your hands, and you can and you will make it happen.
Lovely. Tiasa, what would you say to a young woman out there who wants to draw inspiration from your work?
I think we as women have evolved to, break boundaries, conquer fears, and still be in a position to treat humans around us as our compatriots. So with this, I think we are in a better position to follow our dreams and just do what you want to do, and the world will fall into place at some point of time when you believe in what you're doing, when you seriously want to pursue your dreams. So just dream, dream, dream.
Dream, dream, dream. Ashvika, what would you, anything to add to that?
Absolutely. I think the most important thing is for you to believe in yourself, because unless you believe, you can do it. And if you start out thinking there's going to be that many challenges, there's going to be all these problems, take it for granted. There's going to be 1 million problems. But if you're just going to take that for granted, yes, there are going to be issues, but I can do it. I mean, the first step is you need to believe in yourself, and you need to tell yourself, no matter what comes my way, I am sticking with this. This is it, my choice. So if you can have that spirit, then before you know it, somehow, I don't know, I just feel like in a number of years, somehow it just starts falling into place. The most important thing you can do is just stick with it. In the beginning, it's hard, but just stick with it.
Okay, stick with it. Ashwini, what would you say to girls who want to do more science, or perhaps, it's all very well to say, okay, follow your heart, but a lot of women are not even encouraged to, say, study science or, follow a career on that path. So your words to them?
So most of the women actually, if you see the number of women who take up science in the bachelor's level, there's quite a lot of women, right? But as we go up in the academic ladder, the number of women just reduce. So like Ashvika said, the most important thing is to actually keep at it. A lot of women choose not to keep at it because it's the life choice, and that can be made by men too. And a lot of people drop out of all sorts of fields. That happens. But women selectively drop out. So I would say the most important thing is to have a very supportive community around you. You identify the good people of your life, keep them close, have a supportive community, because you're going to see a lot of problems. And there are going to be ups and downs, and mostly downs. But when you have a great community supporting you, you will always come back. So I think that's my suggestion.
So have a supportive community, be stubborn about what you believe in, use the menstrual cup, and play cards with the community people. Many lessons there this International Women's Day. Thank you all so much. It's been such a joy to have all of you, and I can only wish more power to your dreams. And may you be able to encounter and smash all the stereotypes that you face on a day-to-day basis. And thank you for talking to us, Doc.